Hey there gardeners, Chris from Steading here today. I wanted to talk about growing potatoes and my attempt number 1, which is on the right here, and my attempt number 2, which is on the left. Now, number 1, what I did try and do was just grow them in straw. However, I second guessed myself and I bought some cow manure compost, which I added in layers, basically in between the layers of straw as I was hilling them up. And one of the things that we have found in this garden bed here to my right is I'd say about 2/3 of those potatoes have died by the potatoes themselves the plants are growing from rotting away. And so what has happened is we've had a fairly serious issue with that moisture being captured, and I think with the compost in there, it has stopped it from draining enough for those potatoes to really flourish. We are seeing as well, obviously, on some of these leaves, they're not looking the healthiest now. I'm not sure whether that's just a side effect of those earlier issues. We had some quite heavy rain, which I think was unseasonably heavy in very short periods of time. And so it probably was a bit on the waterlogged side of things. But I think the biggest problem in this bed here was simply the fact that I added that compost, and where the sugarcane mulch, which is basically like a straw, was very, very good drainage, the compost basically meant that it couldn't drain. Now, of course, it's not a super helpful video if I'm not really giving a good rundown of what I'm planting. So this is the King Edward potato. This is a kilo of seed potatoes. They are starting to shoot, so I probably left them a little bit long. They should have probably been in midway through last month, but it is what it is. And yeah, these are just like a guaranteed organic, I think it is, and obviously disease-free seed potato. This is from Goodman Seeds, Australian company, bought at a local nursery in Wauchope, which I think is the Greenbourne nursery. They actually, I found, have often a good collection of seed potatoes. I bought my radish crowns there. They had asparagus crowns. I already have some, so I didn't buy more, but that may have been a mistake. But yeah, basically, same brand as what I bought last time. So as you can see here, these are actually already shooting, and all I'm doing is making sure the shoots are basically upright so that the plant is growing this way, for the obvious reasons, I would say. So I'm trying again, number 2 potato bed, and basically I've changed my strategy a little bit. Rather than putting any of the cow compost in this one, I'm going for a sugarcane mulch just because that's what's available cheaply to buy, because I have heard people saying you can just grow them in straw, and that's what we're going to try. And so here I've got a much larger garden bed this time, so I can space them out a little bit better, because I think that's going to be better for the plants. Instead of having the mainly desiree potatoes, I've gone for a King Edward just because it was locally recommended at the Greenbourne nursery in Wauchope. And yeah, I've put those in here. Now the thing I did different was I put quite a bit of cardboard down in the bottom of the bed to stop the weeds, to suppress the weeds. But what I've also done is I just put a layer of soil, of the garden delivery soil we had for our vegetable garden, and I put that at the very bottom. And the idea with that is that there's just a bit of growing medium, because while the grass is really green around these beds, there's very limited topsoil and then it's just rock. So I wanted the soil at the very bottom to offer something for those roots to grow into that might be a little bit more beneficial. And then on top of that, I added a little bit of potash or fire ash from our fire, which did have a little bit of charcoal in it. I put in some slow release fertilizer, and I put in a bit of blood and bone because I've heard those things recommended. Now, I don't know if it's going to work. Again, I do just kind of enjoy experimenting a little bit. We've planted our King Edward potatoes in 2 rows, I reckon about 60 centimetres apart instead of the 75 recommended, just because of the bed size limitations. And this is a Jack garden bed. It's the round garden bed, 2.1 long by 0.8 metres wide, and it's only 300 tall. So it's not as tall as some of the options, which are kind of 370, I would say, is more the norm, but it should give us plenty of planting depth, and then there's plenty of extra room here, a good 10 centimetres, maybe even closer to 15, where I can hill up around those plants as they grow up, and we should be good. Putting those King Edward seed potatoes in, they'd already started to sprout, so I would imagine we should see some results in the next week or two. as those grow up through the straw, and hopefully we're going to get a much better result here. Now this garden bed on the right, I am leaving it because like this one here is looking pretty healthy, that one there is looking pretty healthy. Some of them are okay and some of them are looking quite yellowed and unhealthy, which is unfortunate. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to grab some of those little potatoes that actually grew off the failed plants here, and I'm going to replant them, and I'm just going to see whether we can have another go. It might not work. The potatoes that I got out of this bed from digging when the stuff was rotting away, obviously the little new potatoes, some of them are tiny, you wouldn't eat them. I actually did use some of the potatoes we got from this bed, some of the desirees, in a mashed potato the other night. So technically speaking, we actually did eat some of those potatoes, but they didn't get particularly big because obviously the main plant rotted away quite quickly. So it's not a total loss. I think definitely a learning experience in trying to do this. And again, with the potatoes, I'm trying to grow them in the simplest manner possible, which is essentially just in a bag of sugarcane mulch. And I think there does need to be a little bit of an iterative process for me to figure out what's going to work well for my conditions, and obviously with the seasons, when to plant, what to add in, how much to water, all that kind of stuff. Not to mention, of course, hoping that we don't get ridiculous rain conditions which just make everything way too wet. But yeah, fingers crossed, I will be doing updates on the second bed and also letting you know how we go with the first one, because there's still a bit of potential there, realistically speaking.